for me, it's important to have that 20-year vision. He looked at the first one, he was like, do you really want to do that? I was like, yeah, of course. He said that the job is yours, we're starting today. The first word I pronounced when I arrived, and I still pronounce it and reminds that to my team, is impact. The ability to maintain good relations with people that you say no to is such a skill. When we closed the door at 5 p.m., I felt, on the floor, I broke down and I started crying because it was a very difficult day. Learn from your mistakes. It's not a quote, it's a mantra.
Welcome to Business Minds. Today we are delighted to host Éric Labelle, Director of Economic Development of the City of Montreal. Éric, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, first of all, I will ask you to define your role in just a few words so our audience can understand what it consists in exactly.
Good. So I'm the Economic Service Development Director for the City of Montreal. I've been in that position since January of this year, so 2023. It's a very I would say important role for the City of Montreal because I'm managing the territory development, the programs to support the ecosystem, so the economical and commerce ecosystem, as well as the design office, the international relations and economical studies and relations with other countries, and many other aspects of the economical development of the cities. I have a team of 75 employees, and with the professionals, it goes up to 90 employees. But it's very it's implicated in the economical service development service in Montreal is involved in many projects in the city. So sometimes we lead projects and sometimes we contribute in projects with other services. So, yeah.
Excellent. So we will dig into that a bit more later.
Okay.
So first of all, to understand the beginning of your journey, I would like to go to the very first step. So my first question is, where did you grow up? And what kind of job were you dreaming to do as a kid?
Oh, God. I grew up in Quebec City. So as a young kid, I grew up in Loretteville and Sainte-Foy, went to school in Sillery, at Séminaire des Pères-Maristes for high school. And I moved to Montreal. I was about almost 20 years old to go study in IT. So we'll come back to that later. But so I grew up in Quebec. My objective as a career and what I saw myself into was not really clear at that time, I would say. I knew I had natural talent to be a manager and to imagine and reorganize things in my head and be able to synthesize things and be able to see ahead and some kind of logistic skills and things like that. So it was not really clear what I wanted to do. So I didn't want to be a firefighter, policeman, businessman, or whatever. So I always went with the flow.
Perfect. You mentioned you had a certain talent for managing.
Yeah.
Did you show any personality traits that give an overview of that early on in your years?
Well, as a kid, I grew up. I was a very social kid. So I was not like the most famous kid of the school, of course not. But I was really involved with projects at school, and a lot of people didn't mind about what kind of gang they were part of or whatever. I was really social and. I don't know. I would say I was really serious. If you ask my parents, they would say that at 15 years old, I was buying my own toothbrush and toothpaste and everything because I wanted to make sure that I was independent. So not that my parents didn't have any money. Well, they were not rich, but I don't know. I wanted to prove myself that I could be independent, and I don't know. Maybe it gave me some confidence for the future or something like that. But on the other hand, I was really stubborn. So when I had an idea in mind, it was difficult to make me change my mind. So a story that my father really likes to tell everyone is that as a young kid, if if we said we're going to leave at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was 7:50, everyone was ready. I was sitting on the couch, and I was like, "No, we're not leaving. It's not 8 o'clock." So, so yeah, that was me when I was a kid. I changed a lot over time, but yeah, yeah.
Care for precision. That's pretty good. And did you like you kind of mentioned it as well, but did you see you had some signs of you pursuing a career in business later on?
Yeah. Actually, my father was an entrepreneur, so he was not a founder, but he managed a lot of companies, very different companies. So he had a bowling center, he had a
Okay.
car dealer, RV dealer, and so on. So, and when I was very young, my parents owned a toy store, so it was a dream for a kid.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but honestly, at 15 years old, I started working with my father during the weekend and summer. Well, instead of going to summer camp or something like that. So I was involved in the family business, but just, to do like very clerical things. But even after 1 month of working there, I was 15, as I was saying. I already, identified way to improve the productivity and reduce cost. And I came to my father saying, I have that project. I identified those, problems. I thought of different solutions. I think this one would work better and everything. So he said, like, okay, go ahead. I have trust in you. So do whatever you want to do that will get to your goal. So even at 15 years old, I was like very, my head is always spinning. So I'm always few steps ahead. And I would say, in my position right now, I'm always years ahead. I always think like 20 years ahead. But at that time, I couldn't, think 20 years ahead. But few steps ahead was really already impressive for a 15 years old child. Sorry. So yeah, taking that in consideration, I should have known at that time that I would be a good leader and manager. Yeah.
Excellent. And so you mentioned you did your studies in Montreal.
Yeah.
And what did you study? And if you were a few steps ahead in your head, did you have a clear goal in mind?
Well, that's easy to say when you plan projects, but for yourself, no.
Okay.
So, I went to Cégep François-Xavier Garneau in Quebec. So in Quebec, we have Cégeps. Honestly, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was quite confused. I just wanted to enjoy life at that time. I was 17 years old, 18 years old. So I spent 1 year in Cégep, and it was not for me. Not at all. Seriously, it's not it's kind of an institution that was good for me. I left a private high school of 250 students to go to a Cégep with like 2,000 students. It was like a dream coming true for me. There was no rules, and apart from your school classes and agenda, and so I was like left by myself. So it's not something that was good for me at the time. So I just wanted to live my life. So I had absolutely no idea. So I remember in one dinner with one of my friends' friends, they told me about IT school in Montreal, and I was like, why not? That would be a good thing for me, I think so. So I decided to move to apply to the program, got accepted, moved to Montreal, and I did my study in IT at the beginning for 2 years, got my diploma, started working in that field, and then I went back to school in project management. Also, I went to management, and after that, negotiation with unions and and conventions and things like that. So, I didn't have specific goals at the time, but I met a lot of people that believed in me, good mentors, that trusted me, that saw the potential that I had, and put me to the challenge to position that were higher than I was expecting. So that path may bring me to the position I am right now. So I can't wait to see what's going to be my next path, actually, and my next challenge. But I'm really proud of what I achieved in I would say few years. It's been 20 years, of course, but for me, I achieved a lot in 20 years. So I'm really proud of myself for that.
Excellent. So we will have more questions about more specific
Yeah.
about your career. Still in your early years, did you have some inspiration figures, some role models? You mentioned maybe your father who was an
Yeah.
entrepreneur.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it will sound very tacky, but my father, of course. And the reason why is because I'm not easily impressible, seriously. I don't have any problem talking with the Queen Elizabeth or any other major figures or people in the world. At the end, we're all human. I'm really impressed by the career and the positions that people have and ideas, of course, and projects that they lead, not the person by themselves. And so my father always impressed me because he only had an high school diploma, and he's been able to, have a lot of success in his career and his entrepreneur career because, as I said earlier, he owned a lot of companies, and he's always been able to, have success with those companies. So he really impressed me with what he did with the, well, with the the school diploma and all of the scholarship he has. So yeah.
Excellent. And so, when in your early years, still, could you envision that you would one day become the director of economic
No,
development of Montreal?
no, 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 not at all. So I always wanted to have an impact, of course, and that's my main objective and goal in life. Honestly, no. And it's not something that I thought of. But when the position opened, I was in the National Bank. I was thinking about maybe changing my career, and finding new goals and, a new position that will get me that impact that I'm reaching for. I was not even aware of that position, that position was open, and it's somebody else in the industry that told me about the position. It was like, you should apply for that. And I was like, for the City of Montreal, hell no. So, but then, but then I came back to myself and I wrote, I decided to have a look at the role and read about that and look at the who was there before, what they did, what's the objective, what's the plan, and so on and so on, and what's going to be the team. And I was like, well, the more I was reading about the position, the more I was considering it's me. I should be there. And to be quite honest, there was more than 400 people applying for the position. So yeah, so I didn't see myself there at the beginning.
So you applied with no contacts?
No, absolutely not.
Applied like normally?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Very nice, very impressive.
Thank
So,
you.
now we're going to dig a bit more into your career. So you
Yeah.
mentioned the start of your career working in IT.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about this first role that you had?
Yeah, I was IT support director for Montreal Airport.
Okay.
So that was my first job. Actually, I was not a director the day I started, but I had a good mentor there, Yannick Lancier, who told me a lot and taught me a lot and believed very quickly in me, sent me back to school to study management and project management. And then the position opened. I did the interviews and the test and the psychological test as well and everything. So he trusted me and he believed in me and he gave me the position. And honestly, it was a very, I learned a lot from that position because IT, I was good in IT, of course, but it was not something that was meant for me. So being the manager and the director of the IT support for Montreal airports was big of a challenge, well, a very big challenge. So that challenge told me a lot, as I was saying, and taught me to, to be able to not overcome, but dépasser. When you go ahead with what you're and you c'est quoi dépasser donc pardon?
Overcoming.
Yeah, overcome. So yeah, so that challenge taught me to overcome and overachieve my expectations. Yeah.
Excellent. And so, how did you transition from the airport to the rest? Like, can you walk us through the
Yeah,
main steps of your
yeah, the
career?
main steps. Yeah. So at Montreal Airport, one of my provider, I would say, for services and IT computers and everything. So IT parts, sorry, was Nextlink. At the time, there was going to be uh, a strike at Videotron, and one of my supplier, Martin Beaupré, I don't know why he saw in me. Also, it's also a good mentor, somebody that saw something in me. So he saw in me the ability to be able to build a call center from scratch very quickly, to be able to address that situation and answer all of the Videotron's client phone during the strike. So he hired me. I did everything with him from scratch. We hired more than 750 employees
Wow.
in less than a year, trained those, had meetings monthly with Pierre-Carl Pelado.
Wow.
So yeah, so that was a very career turn also for me. I'm still in contact with all of those people, you know. So not the 750 employees, but Martin Beaupré, Yannick Lantier, and other mentors that I had in my life. And yeah, so that was very good for me. But after a few years, Nextlink was bought by Bell Canada, and I sensed the opportunity to. I always felt like Quebec is good, but I always wanted to get an international experience. And at that time, I felt I was 30 years old, so I felt it was the opportunity for me to go acquire that international experience. So I yeah, I kind of benefit. I would say benefit from the fact that Bell bought Nextlink to get a package, and then I left for Paris. At the beginning, it was supposed to be 1 year. I worked for a company called WebHelp. It's based in Paris. It's an outsourcer in Paris. I was an account director for I got Orange and many other clients in France. And it was very well. I was successful in that position, of course, and I really enjoyed that position. And then I wanted to, you know, at one point after 2 years, I wanted to try something else because I wanted to get that international experience. So I felt too comfortable in that position. So it was like for me business as usual, just repeating the same thing. And I always want to be challenged. So after 2 years, I told myself, well, I want to have to, you know, better challenges. So I'm going to look for another position somewhere else. And then the president of the company at the time heard about that. So he called me one night at my place and he said, Eric, I heard that you want to leave. I said, yeah, well, actually, it's not because I want to leave. It's just because I want to have, you know, other challenges. And he told me, okay, you know what? You have until tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. to build your 3 dream jobs. And at 11, you're going to come to my office and you're going to present to me your 3 dream jobs. So dream big. I was like, oh, okay. So I spent the evening and the night working on, you know, those job description, what would be my 3 dream jobs. And I went to his office the day after, and I remember I was shaking like that. I was like, oh my, because that's a very impressive guy, honestly. He's a very impressive guy, Frédéric Jousset from WebHelp in France. So I sat down in his office. I started talking about my position. He didn't care about what I was saying. So he opened the file. He took, because at class, well, of course, it was my third, second, and first job that I wanted to have. So he took the third, he had a look and he was like, okay, no. Second, no. And then he looked at the first one. He was like, do you really want to do that? I was like, yeah, of course. He said that the job is yours. We're starting today. And it was director to of the, well, M&A, of course, but it was for the international expansion of the company. So I had the opportunity to become that director of the, well, international expansion, but I was doing the M&A, and it was so, I was traveling a lot, but I learned so much, so out of my comfort zone. I didn't have any much experience in finance, so I had to go acquire those skills and ask people, and not to be afraid to ask for help and document myself and read and everything. So it was really interesting. Yeah.
What were your responsibilities exactly on this last dream job that you
Oh yeah.
told me
So At the time, we had a new investors that bought 45% of the company, and the main objective of their money injection in the company was to be able to expand internationally, so outside of France. So my role was whenever the company or the client of the company had specific needs, let's say they would want to open a service center somewhere that would speak that language and that language and that language, and that the margin and EBITDA would be that kind of percentage. And they would say, I don't know, maybe people that will work in that office would have that skills, and so on. So my job at the beginning was to study different scenarios. Where could we establish the company? So I would find 3 cities around the world that would be the best fit for the requirements of the company or the clients. And then I would do all of the studies to make business plans for those 3 suggestions, let's say. And then I would present that to the company owners, and I would give them the do's and don'ts and pros and cons and how would it cost and everything. And they would say, okay, you know what, that scenario we accept, we agree on that and everything. So let's say they want to open a call center that's multilingual or bilingual and with different skills and so on. And their decision would be Belgium. And my proposal would be, of course, Brussels. So there were 2 scenarios then. So either I would go there and identify companies that we could buy and make scenarios on that and recommendation on that, because I would audit the companies. And then if that was not possible, we could also decide to create our own companies there. So if that was the situation or the decision of the owners to create a company, they would send me there for at least a year to build the company from scratch. So I would establish myself there and start the company, establish the political relations, hire the employees, and rent the office, and so on and so on. So I was either doing the M&As, like audit the companies and do my recommendation also to the owners, or start the company from scratch.
Excellent. And so out of all these different steps, these different kinds of companies, these different projects, what would you say are your main fields of expertise?
That's so difficult.
There are too many?
It's not that it's too many. It's strategy. I would say strategy. Honestly, but I'm able to have conversation and analysis and projects and criticism. In many subjects like culture, IT, finance, business, sports, whatever. But didn't really care what the company was about, as long as I was managing strategy, and I was also having a big impact on the company and the ecosystem that I was involved with. So my main skill would be strategy, I would say.
Excellent. And so back to your current position more, can you give us a few examples of projects that fall into your responsibility today?
Yeah, there's many of them. So that's the reason also that I really enjoy my job. It's exhausting, mentally exhausting, because you have to master hundreds of projects like that. Because every day, I don't know, at 8 o'clock in the morning, I would be talking about a subject. At 8:05, it would be another one, and then I would get a call at 8:06 about another project from the mayor and everything. So I have to master everything. So I have a very good team, so that's a very good thing for me. But there's many projects, but one that I'm very proud of for my team and for me, that we've been working on a lot lately, is the strategy for downtown of Montreal. So I would not say post-COVID, but the economical strategy for downtown Montreal. It's not an easy one, because the team have been working on that for 2 years. When I arrived at the City of Montreal in January, I said, you know what, I'm really sorry, but we're going to scrap everything and start again. So we decided to, came out with 9 projects. I cannot talk about that right now because it's not public yet, but with 9 projects. But I had to make sure that those are ambitious projects, but I can pay for them and I'm going to be able to realize them. Not just like the City of Montreal is going to do that. No, we're going to be doing that on that level, on that plan and that date, and we're going to pay for that and everything. Also because I don't want to ask the government every time that we want to do something for for money. So I wanted to make sure that I could found that strategy. But also, when you talk about downtown Montreal, it's not only an economical environment; it's a cultural environment. It's, city developers are there. Well, of course, companies, but there's so many partners in different area and skills that I had to get involved in, and well, not just involved, but agree to that plan. And that was not an easy one. So that's the thing that I really enjoy about my position is that I don't have a lot of money to distribute and to give to everyone, but I have the obligation and I have to master the fact that I have good relations with almost everyone to be able to influence and reassemble, well, not reassemble, but have people working together. So I didn't talk about that in the previous question because when I talk about strategy, for me, it involves a lot of things like leadership, the ability to get people working together and have a clear vision. So yes, the strategy for downtown Montreal is a very important one for me. So I can't wait to launch it publicly. Of course, I would love to have more ambitious projects, but hey, we're a city where we have to be able to deliver what we say we're going to do.
Perfect. So you mentioned a few of qualities that are important to fulfill such a role. In your opinion, what are the most important skills that allow managers to get promoted to leadership positions the way you did?
Don't consider yourself as a leader. Consider yourself as a part of the team, and be transparent and communicate a lot. If you want to be a good leader, it's not about the fact that you're on top of everyone. Actually, it's the opposite. You're supporting everyone to go up and to shine and and give people clear vision on what's your vision and mission and ambition and your objective and your steps to get there. So be very transparent, communicate a lot, and recognize your employees and the work they do. That's really important. Even during the toughest time, you will keep people working with you and working and be kind of positive about what they're doing when it's difficult because they know where you're going and what's your objective and your goal. You acknowledge that sometimes it's a difficult time and you're facing difficulties, but if you let them know that you need them and you show them that you need them, they're going to still be with you and work with you. And you're never going to be a leader if people around you and your team leaves you. So.
A very good lesson to remember. Thank you for this. Okay. More generally, what do you like most about your job?
So many aspects, honestly. So if you ask anybody in my team since I started, it's only been 9 months, so but it seems like it's 3 years, which is a good sign. Mm-hmm. So it's not 3 years of fatigue; it's 3 years, of impact. If you ask my team, the first word I pronounced when I arrived, and I still pronounce it and reminds that to my team, is impact. So for me, having a better impact is really important, and it's something that I really enjoy. But to have that impact, you have to have your team and also the ecosystem with you. Despite the other director position at the City of Montreal, I'm not only, managing a team and process and regulation and things like that. I'm managing my team, of course, and all of the other things at the City of Montreal, but I'm also managing relations with hundreds of partners, and those are very important, like this Port of Montreal, Montreal International, Tourisme Montréal, the PME Montréal, SDC, the Société de Développement Commercial, and many of them, and the city developers and everything. So those partners are really important to me, and also I want to show them that I'm going to be there for them, But the problem is that you cannot say yes to everyone. You have to say no like 95% of the time. And the ability to maintain good relations with people that you say no to is such a skill to to maintain.
Do you have any tips in that regard?
Oh,
Or is
be,
that
be
secret?
yourself and be transparent. If you say no to someone, but you explain them, you tell them why, and you never promise anything to anybody unless you're very sure of what you're going to say and what you're going to get to them or bring to the table, it's not a problem saying no as long as they know why, and that you never accept something that is less that your goal or expecting to, and make sure that the decision you take have an impact. And by saying that, I mean make sure that if you say no to somebody, there's a reason, but also if you say yeah, there's a reason to achieve your goal and or achieve their goal, because sometimes you need to help people as well. My position is also to help companies and people in the economical sector and in industry. So, and my role is not only for the city downtown; it's for the whole city of Montreal, which is quite huge. So yeah.
Excellent. And so, what would you say you're most proud of in your career, say, or with
That position, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it's something that I was not reaching for. It's not something that I was thinking of. It's in my career field. It's kind of the I don't know what's the word in English, but the Graal. It's the
Graal,
high, yeah. So it's the same word. It's the highest position in business development and economical development. But I didn't realize that when I applied on the position. I knew what I was heading to. I knew what the role was involving and everything, but I didn't realize it that much. I knew there was like more than 400 people applying for the position, and I knew some people that applied to the position, and I was like, oh my God, I would see that person on that position. That's very good. But I never thought of myself, even though I applied to the position. The first months in the position, I had the imposter syndrome a lot, which is a good thing, honestly.
Oh, how so?
Because if you do have the imposter syndrome, it's because you're out of your comfort zone, and that's where you grow, honestly. But the process to get the job was quite difficult. It was a very long process. I had like 8 interviews, psychometrical tests, and also a psychological test, a very tough one. They gave me the restitution and the results actually of the psychological test 3 months after I was in the position. And when I opened the results and I saw the pyramid and everything, I told to myself, oh, okay, I know why I have the position now. I understood everything. And at that time, I started being more secure about me in that position and the impact I have the ecosystem and where the city wants to go. And the reason why I'm here, because I was the most, I was maybe, I think, the person that the skills that they were looking for were more developed on to achieve their goal. And yeah.
Excellent. And so these were all the positive aspects of things. Looking to the other side of the coin, what is the biggest crisis you ever had to face, and how did you manage to come through it?
Would be a more emotional one, I would say. I spoke earlier about the fact that I created a call center for Videotron Strike with 750 employees. Yeah. But when Bell decided to buy Nextlink, the company that I was working on with Martin Beaupré, of course, Videotron would not give contracts to Bell. So we had to lay out 400 people in one day. And we had like 3 days, I think, so to plan who would be leaving and everything. So it was very difficult. So for 3 days, we had to analyze performances, personal situation of the employees, and so on. But when the day came after 3 days that we had to tell those people that they would be losing their job right away, it was very difficult because you cannot announce that to 400 people. So what we did is that we called them in batch of 25 they were coming on one side of the building and exiting on the other one, and it was like every 30 minutes like that for the rest of the day. But the HR director at the time, she was supposed to do that. Actually, I already did. We were going to, well, the analysis on who were going to be laying off and everything. But and it's just normal, honestly. She couldn't be able to do that at 9 o'clock in the morning when we were supposed to start. She started crying, and she broke down, and I had to take the lead. So instantly I decided to, I entered a more robotic mode. I don't know, I was in trance or whatever. You have to be respectful for the people that you have in front of you, that you're telling them you're going to be laid off today, you're losing your job, your paycheck and everything, you're a single mom and everything, but you know what, I cannot do nothing about that. So it was really difficult because you have to be respectful, but you have a job to do. So yeah, so I have to say that when we closed the door at 5 p.m., I felt, on the floor, I broke down and I started crying because it was a very difficult day. But I learned a lot from that.
Understandable.
Yeah.
So back to your current role at the City of Montreal. You told us off cam that your mandate requires you to work on projects which are really long term.
Yeah.
Even though your mandate is a shorter term, how do you deal with this time constraint?
Well, it's the problem with long-term projects when you work for a municipality. It's not because it's a long-term project. That's just like day-to-day job for many people. Problem with that when you work for a municipality is that your project and orientation are subject to daily change depending on what the news are going to be sending, like pushes and interviews they're going to be doing, the subject. So problem is that the longer the project takes, the more you're going to have to change your orientation and make sure that the team follows that, which is not very easy. So I don't know if you have to stay focused not on the results, but on what you accomplished to get to the result. And that's not an easy one, because I would say around 70% of the activity that we do at this economical service development is working on territory development. But 10% of our results are on that. And on the other hand, I would say 30%, 40% of what we're doing is based, not 40, but let's say 30, is based on, is on entrepreneurship and support to the economical ecosystem. But it's like 90% of the results were driven and the impact we have. So that's the most difficult thing to master and understand, because for employees, sometimes they only see the results. But for many projects, you don't get to a result. So what's important is what you achieve to get there.
Interesting, to focus on each step to move forward. That's interesting. Yeah. Since the start of your career, even moving into different industries, what would you say are the main changes that you have witnessed in the economy?
That's a very long shot one. So I could speak about that for days, but only to mention the pandemic, of course, and the economical crisis right now. So it's something for the future. I know your question is about the past, but we're facing right now. I'm not going to use the word face. I would say we're in the middle of a transformation right now, but not only on the finance sector or economic sector or whatever. I think it's worldwide, and so I've started noticing that on 2020, of course, even so before that. And we're in the middle of that. Where it's going to be leading us, I don't know, honestly. But every economical economic specialist and finance specialist would agree that we're in the middle of a transition on something.
Okay, so when we think about the City of Montreal, as you said earlier, there is a cultural aspect to it.
Yeah.
And we know Montreal is the largest French-speaking metropolis in North America,
Yeah.
surrounded by English-speaking influences. Is this something you feel in your day-to-day job when you interact with the exterior of Montreal?
Yeah, definitely, of course. Of course, because I work in a French city, especially for Montreal, our job is in French, of course. And so our day-to-day is in French. When I do conferences, I try to speak French as much as I can because it's something that is requested by my status at the City of Montreal, of course. But apart from that, the fact that Montreal is the metropolis of the French, culture and everything, is not it's not something that I feel. It's something that it's a very big opportunity. People, for me, it's a big opportunity, and people don't see that. Not everyone, but not a lot of people see that. I do understand cultural differences between French and English. I'm not going to take position on that. That's not my role. I do understand that. That's not a problem, but trusting and acknowledging each other would be more beneficial for everyone. I think so, because if you look at other metropolises around the world, Montreal, our biggest strength actually is the fact that we're bilingual and that people speak English and also French, and that's also that, and not just the language, the culture is really an asset that we have, an international not recognition, but people around the world recognize that. They know that. Companies are very attracted to Montreal also because of that. Our universities, French and English universities, it's really a big asset for Montreal. So I'd love people to, of course, stand for, stay strong for French and English and their culture and everything, but also recognize that together we're a very big asset around the world. So.
Very good point. And now, what will be the biggest challenges in 2024 and in the foreseeable future?
Maybe the economical uncertainty for right now. So at the time that we're speaking right now, because of the war and everything, and the interest rate and so on. But it could be also a strength. We'll see. That's a very good question. Also, one of the biggest projects that we're working on is planning the territory for the east part of Montreal, where there used to be like Esso and Suncor and everything. It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge because the soils are contaminated. There's no pipes for water and everything. So we have to invest a lot of money to make sure that we develop that part of the island, which is like 1/4 of the territory of Montreal. So there's going to be a big opportunity to develop neighborhoods, commerce, and city company social offices and everything. So yeah, that's something that we're going to be working a lot for the next years.
Excellent. And now I would like to ask a question more about your vision in general. What do you believe young professionals should focus on first when thinking about succeeding in getting promotions or getting to leadership positions?
I think, of course, I mentioned that before, like be transparent, be yourself, make sure that you stay who you are, find mentors, people that you believe in, that you're going to be able to learn from them. I don't like the word think outside the box. That's not the point for me, but being out of your comfort zone all of the time and learn from your mistake. Honestly, somebody told me the best advice that I received in life when I was younger, say, it's okay to make mistakes, but you have to learn from that. Nobody makes mistakes if they don't do anything. So do mistakes. So my child is 7 years old, and that's something that I tell him every day. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you don't repeat them because you learn from that mistakes. That's really important.
Perfect. That was actually my last question. What was the best piece of advice? So that's perfect. Now, to end this interview, we'll have shorter questions about your personal favorites. First of all, this one, in your case, might take longer than for most people. what do you have left to accomplish?
Oh my God. So you have very difficult questions. Enjoy life. And something that I didn't say before for your previous question, one of my advice to young entrepreneurs and leaders would be to always have a plan B or C, because those plan B and C will lead you to those plans and naturally. So to go back to your question, my position right now is really demanding. So I have, less time to see my friends and my family. So I want to be able to focus more on that. So spend more quality time with my family and friends. But I would really love to work and achieve my plan B. So yeah, so that will be
Beautiful response again. If you could have a private meeting with someone, anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Okay, so you won't like my answer, but let me explain. As I said at the beginning of the interview, I'm not somebody that is really impressible, so I have no problem meeting with Queen Elizabeth and everything, so that's something I said. Like, I was in a gala yesterday, there was like ministers there and everything, and everybody was like, oh, I would love to go see them. And I was like, well, let's go and see them, and and introduce myself. So it's something that I really enjoy doing. I'm not impressed as long as, well, it's not a position that impressed myself, but it's the role that people had in the history, let's say, or their vision, and also how did they achieve that. So my answer would be Margaret Thatcher. So I'm not talking about the fact that I do agree or not on what she did and their positions, but you have to admit that that lady had, courage and determination to take a situation that was, at her vision, problematic, and this was problematic at the time, and conduct changes. So honestly, for being able to conduct changes and stand behind her plan, let's say, Margaret Thatcher.
Interesting. I think that's the first
But
one.
I have to say, I do not agree with everything she did.
Sure.
Okay.
Good precision. I think that's the first time we hear that name so far in
Yeah.
our interview, so that's interesting. Now, a few personal favorites, in just a couple of words. What book inspired you the most?
I don't have time to read right now. No.
Interesting.
No,
Even in
no,
the
no.
past?
Honestly, thanks for the internet for that, because I really enjoy reading studies and things like that. So I'm not joking about the fact that I don't really have time to read books right now. I would love to. There are so many books that I'm like, oh, I have to read this one and so on. But in my position, I want to be able to master everything and be up to date on every subject. I need to make sure that I'm up to date on those subjects and also on whatever my team is working on. So I read a lot of notes from my teams. I go back in the past and read things, that my service did before, to understand what brought us there and so on. So I'm not going to be able to answer your question apart from saying my team notes.
That's funny enough. Okay. Well, I'm assuming it might be similar for the next one. What's your favorite movie/TV show?
No. That's okay, because
Okay.
at night I like to fall asleep on TV shows because it clears my head. So my favorite TV show would be Black Mirror. And not because it's an excellent TV show, it's just because I like the fact that they shake your perspective on life. And especially the first episode, I was shocked by that episode.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you do, I'm not going to talk about that episode here because you have to watch it. But if you do remove the fact that it's shocking, and you look and you analyze the people, how do they interact and everything, and what's their reaction to that on that TV show, it's shocking. That was more shocking to me because it's so true. It's yeah, and it frightens me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Pretty scary indeed. Last one. What's your favorite quote?
well, it seems very tacky, but learn from your mistakes. It's not a quote, it's a mantra. There's so many quotes that I would love to be able to say that's my favorite one, but everything. But when I was thinking about that question, I was like, I'm not able to decide. So, but something that always came to my mind and I use every day with my team, with my son, is like learn from your mistakes. So I would have to say that.
Excellent. And this leads us to our final question. What can we wish you for the future?
Achieve my plan B.
Excellent. Well, thank you so very much, Éric, for being with us today. This was Éric Labelle on Business Minds.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. Hello, I'm Éric Labelle,
Il était français celui-là.
Il était ressenti, hein,
ouais.
c'est ça.